And he was asked in a law school debate about a year ago whether it would be okay to, crush the testicles of a young boy if the president thought that the boy's father would have might have information where a bomb was. John Yoo really struggled with that question. He said, I don't know, that's a rough one, and this is the person who the media is treating as an authority on interrogation policy. I mean, it's and he's appeared at many Washington think tanks. He's been treated as a visionary thinker. I assume that well, I will not draw any historical parallels with last century, but it's amazing to see where their standards have fallen. Habeas corpus is another thing which has fallen by the wayside. A major problem with this Military Commissions Act is that the president can accuse anybody in the world of being an enemy combatant and have that person detained indefinitely. And a person does not have the right to have access to federal courts to challenge once they've been labeled an enemy combatant. This is a revolutionary change. This is the president's right to nullify all rights. And this is something, again, which generated very little controversy at the time that Congress was considering this act. And folks think, well, this is only for foreign bad guys, but there is no reason to assume that these powers would be so limited, because Bush has not respected any limits on his power so far. I mean, everything is a stepping stone. Where are they going next? And we don't know. And there's no reason to trust these people. Bush has tried to portray the torture scandal as something which happened by a handful of people at Abu Ghraib, and some of his apologists and some of his people perhaps off the record have said, well, it was just a bunch of hillbillies from West Virginia. These hillbillies were following orders. And there was there was a trial for the corporal who was actually from Pennsylvania on this, and my impression was that the corporal was guilty of a lot of stuff, but he was prohibited from introducing into the military court-martial record. He was prohibited from entering into evidence that he was following higher orders from higher up. And this is how they've handled the torture scandal throughout. They have thrown a handful of enlisted men to the legal wolves. They have had a few officers who were, got a sanction on their career. We don't know how high up this goes. However, there was a CIA letter that came out late last year, which confirmed that George Bush granted the CIA the authority to use extreme interrogation methods, and it spelled out what these methods were.
I've lost my way.
This is from George Bush himself. And the actual letter itself has not come out yet. I think it will come out, and it's possible that when that does come out, that might have the same effect as the Watergate tapes had on Richard Nixon.
Thanks a lot.
On the other hand, maybe I'm overestimating the American people on that. Maybe people will simply shrug and say, well, Fox, the Fox 24 program at work theirs, so, we'll just give them the benefit of the doubt on this. But it's fascinating to see how deferential Americans have been to the government seizing nearly absolute power in area after area. I mean, something that was great about this country was Americans had a natural skepticism of politicians and of government authority. Or even healthier, people distrusted government per se. But that's something which has been lost. I was fascinated by the opinion polls, the opinion numbers in the weeks after the 9/11 attacks. Trust in government doubled overnight. The percentage of Americans that trusted the government to do the right thing was up in the 60 or 70%, and this is after the biggest federal screw-up since Pearl Harbor. But it was this surge in trust in government that was the reason that Bush could con the American people into war with Iraq. And that's why Bush has gotten away with so much other law breaking, because people trusted the government. And if there's any lesson from the post 9/11 world, is that the more esteem the government gets, the more dangerous it becomes. And yet people are not drawing that lesson, and I'm concerned with the presidential race heating up for 2008, I mean, it seems as if people are only looking for a better master. Someone, someone with good intentions, someone who's trustworthy. But it doesn't matter who's president, there's way too much power, and that power is going to be abused, and the only answer is to put these rascals on a leash. But I don't know how much of the old American values are still out there that this is going to resonate with. And I also don't know how many Americans still give a damn about individual freedom. Because to see how far the government has gone, and to see how little controversy there has been about these illegal wiretappings, and about the torture, and about the TSA abuses, people have rolled over again and again. Where will it stop? I don't know. So many of these policies have been justified in the name of anti-terrorism. But the single most effective anti-terrorism step the U.S. government can take is to stop killing innocent foreigners around the world. It's time to have a supply-side anti-terror policy. Because so much of what the U.S. government has done has simply spawned far more terrorists than what the U.S. has vanquished. And there's no evidence that Washington has chosen to recognize that or learn that lesson. Because of that, government has become far more dangerous. It has created far more enemies for the American people at the same time as promising to save us. One more good reason to be cynical about government. So, on that note, happy to take some questions. Yeah.
Why has American people in general dropped their guard against Trump's government? I mean, state of fact.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, people have been.
Jim, would you repeat the question?
Yeah, the excellent question. Why have the American people dropped their guard against government? Why are people trusting the government so much? Excellent question. People have been taught from the time that they're knee-high to bow down to the flag, to say the Pledge of Allegiance, to put the government on a pedestal. And this has blunted a lot of people's natural reactions. It's something that the news media, I mean, a major reason that the Bush administration could con America into war was because the news media, for the most part, was a lapdog, if not a bootlicker. And this, I mean, this is certainly true of a lot of the right-wing media. It was also true of the Washington Post and of the New York Times and the three major networks. These folks were a complete disgrace. They were cowardly. They were knowingly putting out dubious administration statements as if they were true. And it's unfortunate there's been so little backlash against the media, because these folks enabled George Bush to violate the law, to violate the Constitution, and to trample our rights. And most of these, I mean, for the Washington media, all that matters is that high-ranking presidents, high-ranking administration officials still come to their table and be their guests at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. That's their standard. That's what they're concerned about. That's where their bragging rights come from. These folks are afraid to offend the federal government. And that's probably the reason why we should have no trust in the media. No trust in the media except for Freedom Daily.
Which comes